came on us about, probably 10 minutes, and I walked up to him, and of course, that's the first time I met the guy, and I said, Chuck, man, this guy was our idol, all of us in the rock and roll, field, and I said, so what song was going to do? And he said, what do you mean, boy? We're going to do Chuck Berry's song. And at that point, he jumped out on the stage, and he hit Johnny B. Good, and we started laughing. He reiterated that. He said, you had the look on your face. He said it was really funny. But that was the common thing during that time period. Nobody ever rehearsed, and a lot of young musicians nowadays don't realize that, where they'll go in a week ahead of time and rehearse all every day. These guys would just show up. They said, know the music. And that was it.
Yeah, I actually ran a band that way as well. But yeah. I mean,
you did? Okay.
When I but they had the recordings ahead of time, and they were expected to walk in the door and be able to handle it. And if they couldn't, they didn't keep their job.
And then we did a lot of concerts with like the Animals, the Dave Part 5, Herman's Hermits, and guys like that we traveled around with. So it was a great ride in the 60s, and it's difficult to describe to someone unless they experienced it back then, because it was an explosion of music, and I mean really good music. And some of these groups, people, of course, they never heard of.
Okay, well now at this time, we're going to check in with the platforms that carry us as a talk show only format. And the reason we do that is we've got a couple of platforms out there where they don't allow us to put music on there. So this next section of the show is what we give to them. This goes into the larger show, but it gets cut out of the larger show and specifically placed on like Spreaker and then also on YouTube because it doesn't have any music. It won't draw any copyright flags because they don't care if I have permission or not. They still flag me for copyright, regardless of if you say it's okay for me to play it. But anyway, Richard, we're going to get into the section of our show right now called The Country Music News. Okay, well, that sounds great. All right. Now, have you had a listen to this show before, Richard?
I have. I listened to it just prior. I think I emailed you first. We were chatting back and forth via email a couple weeks ago.
Okay, so you know what you're in for here.
I hope. I don't know. Maybe something different, but I'm for it.
All right. Well, the Undercountry Music News is a segment of this show where every single week I go on to Google and I look for the search term country music news. And whatever websites come up for that search term on the front page of Google, I dive into those websites. And I peek and I prod and I pry and I kind of poke them with sticks until, because a lot of times I go onto these websites that are supposed to have country music news, and the dirty secret is that a lot of times they don't. By and large, they don't. They have press releases from artists and their management companies and no real news. So my job here is that I report on those who report the country music news, and I try to find the one or two actual news stories on each of those websites, and I compile them all into this beautiful portion of the show, otherwise known as the Undercountry Music News.
Okay.
Yes. And
all right.
Yeah, and the Undercountry Music News is just an excerpt of the larger program, Undercountry Music. And for those of you just joining us on our talk show format, I am hanging out here with Richard Lee of the classic band The Brymers, who started way back in the 60s and then sort of reformed by accident when they found out that there was a resurgence in their music, and they decided to hop on it and take advantage of it. And here we are, 45 years later, and these guys are just out there tearing it up again.
We're having a lot of fun. We're really enjoying it. And enjoying the crowds, and what amazes me, I know on our website are I always like to ask the age of people who will call or will email us and ask about it. And these are people who are like in their 20s and 30s and 40s, and they're aficionados on this type of music. And it really amazes me. And it's glad to hear that.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, there is one other part to the Undercountry Music News. which can sometimes be a little dangerous for a person reviving their long-standing careers here. And that is, when I come across a website that's supposed to report country music news but has no country music news, that website gets rewarded with the Under Country Music News Wet Belch of the Week.
That sounds great.
Now, have you ever... Now, you've had a pretty long career in music here. You know, we're talking about 50 years or so, right, if I've calculated correctly?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Have you ever been on a show where the host was belching?
Nope, never have.
All right, well,
I never have.
Today, and you thought you'd seen it all through the 60s and 70s, and, today just might break some grand new... there are weeks where I don't belch because, fortunately, everyone will have some news. But it's a rarity. I belch almost every episode. There was even an episode where I belched twice.
That's great.
All right, are you ready to get into it here?
Yeah, I am. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, we're going to start over at GAC, Great American Country. And now, GAC comes in at the top of the search results this week, and that is a rarity because almost every single week, CMT is the top Google search result for country music news. That stated, they have got...
There it goes. Okay, I heard that one.
They got the Under Country Music News Wet Belch of the Week because apparently they got to the top by doing nothing. But wouldn't we all like to get to the top by doing nothing?
I know it. Well, evidently they have a lot of views or something.
Yeah,
what are they, mainly press releases that they're doing then?
It's just all BS press releases. I looked through it. There was no actual news on there. Now, fortunately, everybody else that I checked in with did have some form of news in there, and so we got the belch behind us here, and you did survive it, and that's a new experience for you, Richard. All right, over at CMT, which comes in at number 2 this week. The big story here, actually got a couple stories here. Okay, actually I think it's only one story, but it's a long one. It had 2 paragraphs. All right. CMT, they are launching a new portion of their offerings called News and Docs. That's DOCS, I guess means documentaries to division. And it has a slate of brand new projects that are currently in development from critically acclaimed and award-winning producers, including Ridley Scott and Morgan Spurlock, amongst others. Apparently they're doing a documentary on the Brymers. No, they're not. No, but
I know.
All right. At the network did a presentation on April 2nd, and they revealed several projects that include one called Promised Land, and that's being produced by Ridley Scott. I'm not really sure what that's all about. I didn't really delve in that deep. One called They Called Us Outlaws. I'm assuming that's about the outlaw country movement, and that's by Eric Gettleman, I don't know. And also Academy Award winner Mark Johnson. There's a documentary called Freedom, and that's being directed by Morgan Spurlock. And Urban Legend, When a Nation Went Country by John Dorsey and Andrew Steffen. And they're also premiering a Johnny Cash documentary called American Rebel. And if those are of interest to you, you can read more about them over at CMT.com and see all this new stuff they're coming out with.
Well, I think that's great, our age of technology. One, that people have access to this, especially maybe people are not familiar with, they've heard his name, but it's some of his music. It's like Johnny Cash.
It's amazing. It's all right here at our fingertips now.
It is. And that's what I think is tremendous about it. It really is.
You guys ought to film a documentary. I think you guys have an amazing story.
Well, it's very nice of you to say so. And believe it or not, a person has approached us, this is probably about 8 months ago, about that. And we said, we're game for anything, folks, and about that, because some of the people that we happen to be, be associated with back in the day and some of the places we were at and so forth. And like I said, it was just a lot of fun. And I can't say enough about it.
All right. Well, we're going to move on now to countryweekly.com. Are you familiar with the CMT Crossroads show?
I've heard of it. I have not seen it.
Now, that's normally where they take a pop act, a pop and or rock act, and they pair them with a country act, and then they play each other's songs.
Ooh. Mm-hmm.
Now,
I have, yes. Now I'm aware of that.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Well, coming up on CMT, and this is Country Weekly that's reporting it. Now, this is the odd thing. Country Weekly's reporting this about CMT, and CMT didn't even report it about themselves. So, go figure. But, I digress. Upcoming on CMT Crossroads, Casey Musgraves and Katy Perry are going to be performing together, be performing each other's songs in unholy matrimony there. And you'll be able to...
that should be interesting.
And if you want to know more about that, don't go to CMT, go to Country Weekly to find out what's going on over at CMT. I've got a tough job here.
I know it. I was not a big fan of Katy Perry. But what we tend to forget sometimes is that these people are multi-dimensional. Maybe they made it in one genre of music, and that's what you know them for, but they can probably sing any style. And I'm not sure if some of your fans happened to tune in and saw the Grammys 50th anniversary salute to the Beatles. But Katy Perry did a song on there yesterday, the McCartney and Lennon, and she hit it out of the ballpark. It was a tremendous version she did.
Yeah, she's an amazing performer. She actually started out as a Christian artist.
Oh no, I didn't realize that. Is that right?
And now she puts out a lot of really filthy music, and it's like, okay.
I know it. She does. It really is great, and I enjoy it. And what I enjoy especially is some in the country field right now. They're pop. They are pop country artists.
Richard, I just said Katy Perry puts out a lot of filthy music now, and you go, oh yeah, that's great. I love it.
Oh, I heard that. I know it.
Oh, okay. I wanted to make sure you heard it because like last Friday night, we had a menage a trois, it's things like that. But I'm a DJ as my living. I play a lot of schools and things like that where they ask for Katy Perry, and a lot of times I have to sit here and edit these songs to be clean, and it takes a while to get all the stuff that I can't play in front of kids in schools out of there.
I understand fully.
All right. Anyway, speaking of tastelessness, we got a website we're heading over to now called Taste of Country. Are you familiar with Taste of Country?
I am not. No, I'm not.
You're about to be, because they are what are they, number 4 on the Google search results? I believe they are. Okay. Now, I usually take a pass on the type of story I'm about to report, and the reason is not because they're not wonderful things, but it's because everybody has a cause, everybody has a charity, and everybody's got a freaking bleeding heart about something, and it's cool. It's a wonderful thing. I do as well, but and it seems like every time I pull up a country music news site, there's a story about a celebrity going to visit kids in the hospital, like kids with cancers and things like that, and that's wonderful. I'm not knocking it, but I don't really think of it as news because they got their cameras there and everything like that. I hate to think this way, but I think sometimes these guys go in there for their publicity shots, and I mean that's.
I know what you mean. Some of them are photo ops, and a lot of the people you never hear about just by accident, maybe years later, the people who are in there who really have a